What made you immediately lose interest in a crush? Story 1, when I realized she had to take her bestie literally everywhere. It was weird. We would hang out, and she would come, would go on a date, and she'd come, would go to a movie, and she would either come or be texting her the entire time. Every night she would just come over and watch TV with us. It really got old. We were still friends on Facebook. My old crush is married now, and I see all these pictures of her and her husband in Greece, Paris, safaris in Africa, and you guessed it, the third wheel is in all the pictures. Story 2, guy still flirted with other girls after expressing interest in me and let them sit on his lap. I ended it before it even really began. A year later, he asked if I wanted to fool around. I said no. About a month after that, I saw he had a girlfriend when she tagged him in an FB post saying, "Happy 6-month anniversary." Story 3, it's cliche, but it's true. She was shitty to waitstaff, expected a hostess to pull a table out of her to seat us, got very well fix it or he'll never come here again. Like, who the are you? Story 4, after talking for weeks, he admitted to sleeping with my younger sister. Immediately lost interest. He was confused as to why I called it off, despite me explaining why. Story 5, she acts like I don't even exist, and she's impossible to get in contact with. You Scarlett Johansson? My crush was friend with these two girls who would constantly just be super annoying and rude for no reason. And one day, one of the girls who we'll call Sadie asked if they could borrow $5 from me. I said no. And then she hit me hard with her shoulder and said whatever. I was so stunned, and I started getting kind of teary-eyed. When I went to go talk to my friend and my crush, she asked me what was wrong and why I was crying, so I told her what happened. She just looked over to her friend who called me and said, "Sadie, you said that. Laughing and giggling, you're so funny." Needless to say, that kind of destroyed my interest in her. Story 6, I actually hung out with her one night. She was fine, nice and everything, but I just wasn't interested after that. Sometimes that's really just it. You think you're interested, but on further reflection, you're not. Story 7, mid-20s. Known her for quite a while. She seemed really nice, was quite intelligent and friendly. Everyone liked her, would sometimes be kind of flaky with some weird excuses when we were supposed to meet, whether casually or professionally, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Then we had to work on a project together. Wasn't something too serious, so I told her I could do it on my own since it's not a lot of work. She insisted we split the work, so I agreed. I did my part. She was late with hers with some strange excuses revolving around getting stuck on it and needing to spend some extra time fixing parts of it. While I went over her work, I noticed she straight up copied it all and didn't even bother changing the original author's name from the documents. I confronted her about it, saying that I literally suggested I do it on my own for the both of us instead of splitting the work. She denied everything. Even when I mentioned it's not her name on the docs, she said she was just using some reference materials and must have accidentally copied it, as is. Needless to say, I refused to work with her professionally ever again. Luckily, she didn't stick around for long afterwards anyway. Brought it up shortly after with a mutual friend who straight up laughed and said that it sounds like her all right, and that she even convinces herself in her own made-up stories most of the time. Pretty much stopped talking to her altogether after that since I couldn't trust her not to screw us both over professionally, let alone be honest personally. Story 8, there was a girl who I saw at the club maybe twice in 3 months, and she hit every attraction metric I had at the time. The third time I saw her, I got up the courage to approach her, and we hit it off. She was great, but she drank a little too much during the night. At the end of the night, she accepted an offer to come to my house. When we got to my house, she asked me to make her drinks, and by this point she was drunk. I put her in my bed, and during the night, she peed the bed and was so drunk she didn't wake up. I've never been so disappointed in another human being. We never spoke again, but I looked her up years later, and she got arrested in a sting operation for selling counterfeit purses. Story 9M from Germany, and we have 3 different kinds of high school. One is preparing you for university, one is preparing you for a mix of apprenticeship and some higher education, and one is to prepare you for a manual labor apprenticeship. I went to the first one and met a girl there who seemed amazing until she made fun of people from the other 2 forms of high school. Arrogance is an immediate turnoff, especially if it's completely unsubstantiated. Story 10, they show no interest in my general life. Example, I tell them I'm going to the theater with my mom, then they show no interest in asking me how it was, etc. Instant turn off. Story 11, when I realized she's been lying to me all the time I fought for her. She kept telling me she's interested in me, but suddenly lost the interest because she wasn't looking for a relationship ATM. Literally a week later, she called me so excited and told me a story about this dude that she's been hooking up with for a while now. Such a fuckery, just a week after I told her about my feelings for her. Story 12, she turned out to be absolutely bad insane. Just decided on our 3rd meeting to unload with all sorts of insanity. It was a ceaseless, unrelenting, rambling, incoherent stream of insanity for about an hour. Conspiracy theories, like all of them, then abruptly propositions me, are you going to me or not? And then before I could even respond, she went right back into the avalanche of conspiracy theories. Needless to say, I bowed out of the situation as rapidly as possible. Story 13, I told him, and he turned me down. I was satisfied with that answer, and the crush soon went away. I was fine with this outcome. Oh, another time, though, someone I'd been talking to romanticist YLZ told me he didn't believe in science. He was the kind of dude who would say a lot of things jokingly or ironically totally deadpan. So I stated that I was never sure when he was joking, and he told me he was absolutely serious. Then explained his argument. We stopped talking shortly after that. Story 14, she believed she could transfer between dimensions, and that she was apparently the queen of one. I tried their method, but it just didn't work. Her friends believe it too. Story 15, attitude. Like most guys, I worked pizza delivery in high school when my parents allowed it, and I could kill on tips just by chatting up the customer. The best one was the 7 pizza order that ended up late because it was just too far out. So boss docked me the 20 discount and the mom dropped me a 100 tip. Or the guy with a Pro-Am funny car under a tarp in his driveway, and I asked him if he had a 6V71 blower on it. Dude was surprised I would know parents were industrial equipment brokers, so I was a wrench turner, and dropped me a 50 tip. So when I say I take care of food service workers, I always tip, but base it on the level of service. Delivery always gets 20. Kid was just barely 16 when he delivered the pizzas and wings, and I was barely 20 when this happened, so I could totally relate. I paid, but she didn't tip him. I gave her the cash tip while I was finishing up some cleaning, and she pocketed the tip and said he didn't deserve it. He got the tip after I chased him down and apologized. She got the boot before eating pizza and wings. First and last date in under 30 minutes. Thanks, Domino's. Story 16, talking about Mexicans, calling them low class. Yeah, you're South American. You can have an opinion about their Spanish, whatever, but you just showed a big part of yourself, and it made you really ugly to me when I thought you were gorgeous with that stuck-up snob. Saw her flirting with a new guy every minute. Story 17, they hated men. Like they genuinely hated men. They were also extremely racist toward a lot of people. She was good-looking too, so it bummed me out a little. However, I would have been rejected either way. Story 18, there was this girl that liked me, and then I started taking interest in her. I asked her if we could meet up at the school grounds on one of the breaks, but when I was there, she never came. She stood me up. From then, I immediately lost interest in her and started focusing on school. Story 19, we had maybe 3 dates and were fooling around after on the bed. And she says, it's too soon, we should wait. And I said, all right, if that's what you want, that's no problem at all. Then she sighed and said a real man takes what he wants. I showed her the door after explaining that a real man respects a woman's boundaries and that we won't be doing this again. In this day and age, a real man does absolutely not take what he wants goes double when you are just beginning to date and don't know each other that well. Story 20, we didn't have the same sense of dark humor, to the point he tried to lecture me about a joke I had made about my own uncle. Now he's becoming a pastor. Story 21, we were hanging out for a long time now. She already told me she had strong feelings for me and proceeded to send me a Snapchat of her having with a mutual friend of ours. Needless to say, I've lost my interest. Later she said it was just a prank and the guy had bought her a bottle of wine. I'm not the one to slut shame, but it wasn't right. We were 16. Nothing, I still have feelings for her. Story 22, when I found out that she smokes, I know that this is probably a normal thing for other people, but it's a huge red flag for me. I'm pretty sensitive to the smell, so when I smell cigarette smoke, it immediately makes me feel a little bit out of breath. Story 23, I'm allowed to answer my own question and share my story too. Right, every time we met as friends, she would constantly talk about how many men she has to reject, what lies and tricks she comes up with to do so, and how she had so many partners she could not even remember the exact number, but it was somewhere in the 30-40s. Story 24, a simple game I actually learned on Reddit to learn more about someone, like when you're sitting in a cafe or having a stroll in the park. You chose a random person and asked the crush to play a game about imagining what their life is about, what hobbies they maybe have, what background they have, etc. From time to time, a crush got outright nasty, imagining the worst things about people, and soon made the jump to make fun of them. At that point, I enjoy the rest of the evening, but I know that we would never be compatible. Story 25, they had zero motivation to progress in life. Put me off, as this is something they specifically complained about and had ample opportunity to knuckle down and bring about the change they desired. But no, instead it was just sulking all the time. I am the polar opposite, so it just made me feel depressed. Lovely person, better suited to someone else. Story 26, their views on certain rights everybody should have. Their male-female views showed that women were just supposed to stay home and bear kids, and he was supposed to go through university and provide. Not religious, just came from a small town. Story 27 saw her demand to speak to the manager in the university food hall. I couldn't fully hear the conversation, but it was something to with the mayonnaise on her sandwich not being quite right. Maybe she was in the right about the mayonnaise. It could have gone off or something. I really don't know. But either way, there was no reason to speak to the staff members in the way she did. Story 28. I have really troubles losing interest in a crush. Even after a no, it takes months to me. Probably something is wrong in me because I receive too much no in my life, and every time it is a new name to add to the list. Story 29. Switching religion, which is somewhat fine, but start saying things like all religions teach kindness, yet only one teaches the truth, and all that publicly. It was so sudden, never saw the tendency for such zeal, if not fanaticism in her. Story 30. My boyfriend and I of 6 months broke up because we were too busy dealing with exams and whatnot, and while later after the storm had cleared, we were thinking about getting back together. We were talking loads, having a good time, and things were going amazing. However, one night we were talking for a while about our lives, and I started bringing up cute anecdotes and facts about his life. He talked and laughed for hours about them, and when I asked him what he remembers about me, he went silent. Keep in mind, this is only 2 months after we broke up. He couldn't even tell me my birthday. Instant turn off. Story 31. We were flirting, and one day, he grabbed my hands and asked my name, will you please be, so kind of send me the answers to the homework. I immediately realized he was just playing with my feelings. Story 32. I saw her sitting sad and alone in the UNCAF, and when I asked her if she was all right, she told me, I don't want to talk to anyone, so I gave her space. As I was going upstairs, I looked back at her speaking with another guy. I was like, yep, fogger her. Story 33. Was on a date, and an hour in he kissed me. After the long and pleasant kiss, he said, so, are we ovish? I asked him to clarify what he meant by ovish, and he meant to say official. I said, no, not yet, we met an hour ago. Story 34. He said, dude, everyone is racist. I'm racist. You're racist. We're all racist. I started losing interest before that, but this was the nail in the coffin for me. Story 35. It's a bit petty, but a nose ring. I have a distaste for all piercings, but those stupid nose loops that make girls look like a bull are some of the worst. Instant downgrade from 9/10 to like a 4. Story 36. I saw that girl in my primary school, and she was cute, but the next thing which I noticed completely blew my mind. That cute girl was nose-picking, and then she literally put that finger in her mouth. Absolutely disgusting. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Story 37. Watch him laugh and really get excited when a dog was getting shocked one of those shock collars. He enjoyed that way too much and wanted to encourage the dog to go outside the boundary. Fortunately, the owner wouldn't let him. I completely wrote him off that day. Story 38. He started dating me. Needed a break from me, but I still loved him. Turns out he just wanted his ex again and not feel guilty, lost interest. And now he wants me. Story 39. I 27. F have been the crush people lost interest in. I have really bad anxiety and I talk a lot when I'm nervous. That turns people off. One of them straight up told me that my personality was a turn off. I also like Disney. I appreciate the hand-drawn movies so much. That's a turn off. I'm too direct. Whatever that means, that's a turn off. However, I also got a superlative in grad school for best personality. That's not me even trying to flex. I'm just confused. Story 40. I remember many years ago, I had a crush on this South African. She was mixed race, cute, curvy, massive, and basically ticked all my boxes back then. Despite her being a game lass, so to speak, and a lovely girl, when it was just the two of us, she couldn't hold a conversation. Basic stuff fine, but it was just super awkward. No flowing conversation. It just killed it for me. Pity really, she was a lovely woman, so sexy too, but I don't know, it just didn't click. Story 41. 13 relationships in 13 years. And she has the audacity to complain about abandonment issues and not getting what she needs out of relationships. Like, did you try staying in one for more than 5 seconds? There's a non-zero chance you gave one of these exes abandonment issues. Maybe if I felt like breaking my heart on someone ID, ask her out. The kicker is that she's a really cool and attractive person, also a really good friend, but I think she has issues with commitment that she projects onto partners, though. I'm not a therapist. Story 42. When I took initiative, he ignored me. So I figured, okay, he's not interested. It happens. The moment I stopped paying attention to him and taking the initiative, he came back around. Cool, I thought. Maybe I was wrong. Nope. When I was responsive to it, he suddenly seemed to be uninterested again. This guy only seemed to think I was interesting if I was ignoring him. And that's just not how I like my relationships to be. Story 43. She always responded late to texts and calls, but when I was with her, she couldn't get off her phone. Also, another girl said there's too many foreigners around here. Story 44. She visited me at my job way too many times. My boss and coworker immediately saw red flags. LOL, told her I wasn't interested anymore, and she stalked me for another 2 weeks and claimed she saw a therapist. Fast forward to today, she doing the same to her new dude. Crisis averted. Story 45, unnaturally high voice. I used to see her in my class. She was in another batch. She used to pass me by while I waited in line to get to my bench. So beautiful. I was 16 and in love. Didn't talk to her for 6 months. One day our classes were merged and heard her talk. Her voice was so high, why they grated my ears. I have a thing about noise, and after that I couldn't look at her without getting that BRRRR feeling you get at dentists. Story 46, invited them to a concert, gave me a whole list of reasons why they didn't want to go. At the show, I see them posting Snapchats of the show. She went with a different friend. Story 47, rode as a passenger in her car. The road rage over the slightest annoyance was biblical. I spent time in the military, and I didn't know some of those curse words existed. Don't do crazy is rule 1. Story 48, I saw her crying on her desk after school. I got enough courage and approached her. After a few seconds, I asked her if she was okay. She said, yeah, it's personal, so I said, okay, you take care, and hey, have some biscuits. I carried her favorite one for days and passed the pack to her and left after a couple PF minutes. She left the classroom, and I saw from a distance she threw something in the trash, and I assumed it was the empty packaging. After she left, I curiously took a peek and found out the unopened box all crushed just like my heart. I felt bad, but never approached her again, and every day, for a couple of weeks, I think I saw her after school crying alone in the class. Story 49, had liked this person since we studied together some 15 years before, reconnected over Facebook, and decided to chat over the phone. First phone call I happened to mention I had an injured cat. They said I should put of its misery. I said no, and this isn't going to work, and I hung up. Obviously not an animal lover, and had no compassion or empathy. Instant turn off. Story 50, it sounds petty, but the guy was told had done something selfish that would inconvenience someone else, and he just shrugged and said, oh well, I won't lose any sleep over it. TBF, I was already kind of losing the initial excitable crush feeling anyway, but that was the thing that really got me. I could never be with someone who's that nonchalant about putting someone else out. Story 51, had chatted with this girl for several weeks online. We had gone to high school together, but hadn't been friends and hadn't seen each other in about a decade. We reconnected on Facebook, of course, and things started to turn flirty and then downright dirty as we continued to chat. So when I told her I'd be in the area on a vacation in a few weeks, we both were excited to meet up. As soon as she stepped out of the car to greet me, 3 immediate facts hit me. 1, she was probably 90 pounds soaking wet, and not in a small and cute way, but in a I would likely die if I don't eat something in the next 24 hours way. Looked like she walked off the set of Schindler's List, too. She was surrounded by a fog of cigarette smoke. I detest the smell of cigarette smoke. 3, she had the absolute worst and most stereotypically grating Bostonian accent, like nails on a chalkboard. Any one of those would be a killer, but all 3 basically tried to invert me. Let's just say we didn't hang out much during that vacation. Not did we talk hardly at all after. Story 52 saw him get angry and break his skateboard intentionally. I do not do well with people that get angry to the point of doing things they might regret later. I moved on hard after that.